It sounds hard to believe, but unfortunately it's true. Nearly half of our adult population struggle to read and write. It's costing millions of people the chance of finding employment and leading any sort of happy and stress-free life. As we're about to see, some parents are even suing schools for failing to teach their children basic literacy skills. Jackie Quist reports on what's being dubbed Australia's hidden epidemic.
Behind the gates of our elite schools lies the promise of a top-notch education. With high fees comes the expectation of good results. But Yvonne Meyer says after paying tens of thousands of dollars in school fees, her son wasn't even taught to read and write. Yvonne discovered to her horror her grade 5 son was barely literate.
The thing about my son was that because he was fairly bright and because he was a nice, pleasant, quiet child, the teachers thought he was fine.
He wasn't. Like so many Australians, he could hardly read.
Sour cream jam, I think. Spring rolls. Samoan.
For 38-year-old Susan Sales, the simple task of deciding what's for lunch is a huge battle.
Vegetarian. I'm not sure that works.
Susan is functionally illiterate. That means this 38-year-old has barely enough reading and writing skills to cope with everyday life.
Yeah, bluff your way through, I guess.
Susan forced to leave her job at a fast food outlet when its computerised registers became too complex. Even supermarket shopping is a challenge.
If they change the packets, then I'm lost.
Understanding a simple headline is something many of us take for granted. But for almost half the population, even that's impossible. Amazingly, 44% of Australians don't have the reading and writing skills to function effectively day to day. It's our hidden epidemic.
I thought I was the only one, in the world that couldn't read and write.
Along with Susan and 8 other mature-age students, 58-year-old Colin Smith is back in the classroom learning the basics. The former forklift driver says he and his classmates are society's forgotten.
And I found there's a lot of people out there who can't read and write either.
This embarrassing problem doesn't discriminate.
He didn't know how to read as in sound out, and if you can't sound out, the only words you can read are the words that you've memorised.
Yvonne Meyer sued her son's school and won a confidential settlement. With the help of one-on-one explicit instruction, he went on to successfully complete school and is now at university.
When we look at careers today, we're going to be looking at lifelong learning.
After almost 3 decades teaching in mainstream secondary schools, Teresa Vizinton's mission is to intercept the teenagers who drop out. Some frustrated by literacy battles, others lacking the skills to cope in a regular school environment.
Technology is changing jobs. People need to be consistently retrained. So what we've got to say to people now is don't be scared of it, embrace it.
In 250 metres, turn left.
While technology means Susan Sales no longer has to struggle with maps, our computer age presents a whole host of new problems, according to Sally Thompson, head of Adult Learning Australia.
The literacy bar is definitely growing. So a good example is a cleaner. 100 years ago, a cleaner was someone with a bar of soap and a good strong arm. Nowadays, a cleaner is someone who has to read chemical packages, instructions on chemical bottles, that has to use heavy equipment, that maybe has to fill in an online timesheet.
Remember that we've been focusing on verbs, nouns and adjectives?
It's 22 years since Susan last set foot in a classroom, but simply being in this adult literacy class is liberating. Here, students don't have to hide or make excuses. Teacher Megan Camille.
We've had some really good outcomes. I have a gentleman now who's been through this program and is now doing his Masters in youth work, and he's amazing.
I remember in grade 5 I was taken into a little room with a teacher and to do a spelling test, and I couldn't get past grade 3, and she just sat there and laughed at me.
Unfortunately, Mick Goss's story is a familiar one. For years, Mick was illiterate, the turning point coming at age 40.
When I became a dad, and they encouraged to read to your young child.
The single dad, proof you're never too old to learn. His mission now to assist others and to lift the illiteracy stigma. Mick's greatest achievement, helping son Bailey.
I'm now going to help him with a lot more confidence with his homework and everyday living.
I'm not sure which one I should use because I can't read the labels.
Susan Sales is determined to become literate and to forge a career in aged care.
They say life begins at 40. Well, maybe it's a chance for me.